All right. Let's look at here myself. All right. Yeah, all right. Shalom, shalom. I want to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakar, Kodash. I want to say double honors to the apostles and the bishop elders and the brothers on down, a great millstone for teachers' word and truth and sincerity and for ruling well. And salutations to my fellow Akim across the four corners of the globe, preaching and prophesying in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Hey, this is the brother Gabar Yahweh from GMS Hawaii coming to you with another lesson, live lesson. This particular lesson is entitled Emancipation. And I'm not going to go too much into the movie because I know it just came out. A lot of brothers in Aquath, a lot of Akim, Aquath haven't seen it. And plus, me and a couple other elders, or myself and a couple other elder brothers are going to do a lesson on emancipation. So look out for that soon, if not today, in a matter of a couple days. So, but nonetheless, this lesson is entitled Emancipation. All right. And if you watch this movie, you know, synopsis of the movie, it's set in a Civil War era of the United States, and slavery was a big component of the Civil War, and it was because slavery was a slavery was the backbone of the South. All that free labor, Edomites getting paid and rich hand over fist with free labor, and it was their economy. The Southern United States, it was their economy. And the North was trying to industrialize, which it was on its way to industrialization. So Esau was shifting from the chattel to the wage slavery. That's what he was shifting to. But they had to get rid of that institution in the South, because by the time 1863 came around, 1865 is when it supposedly took root and slaves were free. Particularly that's why you got Jake out here celebrating Juneteenth. But you're not free, and you have just been transferred. And so I kind of want to focus on that because this is yet another slave movie. They come out with all these slave movies, but then they'll tell us that we should get over it, that slavery was hundreds of years ago, so just forget about it. But we're still in captivity to this day. We have not gotten any compensation of any kind for what has happened to our forefathers as well as us today, because we so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans here in America, we're suffering the ramifications of what happened to our forefathers and foremothers when this country was being established. Okay. And I used to have this article. I'm not sure if I saved it, but it was I had an article that was entitled "When Cotton Was King." Cotton was king in America. They were getting it, man. They were winning. You know, um, yeah. When cotton was king, let me see. This is it. Um, America was doing well with other crops and staples as well, but they had that they had the exception of being extremely wealthy. This country got extremely wealthy from the forced labor that it had put on our people. And when you watch this movie, you're gonna know that we're the Israelites. If you watching it with a spiritual eye, which a lot of Jakes, you don't want to watch these kind of movies because they stir up whatever fear, hatred, angst, anger, sadness, and then Esau, he always starts our history here in this country with slavery. You know, you never get to find out what you were doing before, who you were before, which in reality, we're the Israelites, And no, it hasn't always been peaches and cream with us and our people, but nonetheless, these nations, they've taken great advantage of destroying us, man. This is precept that I just came in my mind. This is the book of Isaiah. Okay, I think it's 47 or 45. Let me see. Isaiah 47 says. This Isaiah chapter yeah, it's Isaiah 47:6. It says, I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke. Yep. and that's what these nations have done. The nation of Edom, they've heavily put a yoke of iron on our neck. And when you watch this movie, trust and believe, and we always talk about the yoke of iron, which is in the scriptures in Deuteronomy. But watch when you see this movie, there's a scene that's really crazy. You know what I'm saying? But it shows you this scripture right here. It says, "Thou hast heavily laid thy yoke." You know, and what is a yoke? All right, what is a yoke? A term for yoke. Yeah, the term for yoke is aisle or ilah, right? Aisle or ilah, which is yoke, you know, and it says yoke as imposed on the neck, literally or figuratively, which we have both. We have figurative yokes, meaning we are these adhesion contracts, these social security card numbers and birth certificates. Those are yokes upon our necks. You know, the super elite, they don't have those things. You know, the Rothschilds don't have birth certificates and social security numbers, or they're not bonded to adhesion contracts. You know, man is supposed to be born on this earth, especially Israelite man, free. And as long as you have those figurative yokes on your necks, you'll never be free. And then it says figuratively or literally or figuratively. When you type in yokes on necks, type of yoke on necks on Google, right? Yoke on necks. You know, you see our people. You know, obviously they show you these gooks with this wooden thing, but this stuff, this is on our people's necks. You know, you type in yoke of iron, yoke on neck. Let's just like yoke on neck slavery. They had many forms of yokes put on our necks in slavery. You got these chains ones, the wooden ones, the iron ones, which you see this in that movie, you know, right? I mean, this is what they did. We were the oxen, man, literally, you know, and they didn't care. They didn't show us no mercy. And when you watch this movie, ain't no mercy from Esau, man. None. Even when you think, because like this, movies like this just kind of gloss over what really happened to our people, even to this man Gordon, who's an Israelite. And if it's true that he was really from Haiti, then he was a Levite, man. You know, and so the point of the matter is that, you know, what is emancipation? How has emancipation affected us? Um, is emancipation truly freedom? Well, we hope to answer those questions in this live session today. Okay, so let's look up the first. The first question is, what is emancipation? Right. Let's look up the definition for emancipation. Right, which I have the etymology of the word too, but it says emancipation, the fact or process of being set free from legal or social or political restrictions. Liberation, which we're not free from any of these things because we're still under Esau's legal system. We're still oppressed by his social system, and we still have no foothold in his political system, and we are not liberated. All right. And so it says to release, releasing, liberation, freeing, unchaining, discharge, untying, enslavement, slavery. So that's what this means today, you know, manumissions. But in reality, we still have these shackles on us. It says unshackling, untying. We're still tied down to this place. Unyoking. You see this? Unyoking, which we still have these yokes on our neck, but they're figuratively, unless you get put into chattel slavery, which is modern day prison, right? Okay, so this is what they say emancipation is in today's speak, right? Well, this is from the etymology online, and it says to emancipate. It says set free from the 1620s, set free from control. From the Latin emancipatus, past participle of emancipare, put a son out of paternal authority, declare someone free. Would you have that happen in this society too? Somebody young and they take their parents to court, and they can get emancipated. Give up one's authority over. It says in Roman law, freeing of a son or wife from legal authority of the parte familias to make his or her own way in the world, from assimilated form of X out the way, emancipare, deliver, transfer of cell. We want to focus on transfer of cell from mancipium ownership. So our cell was transferred from the states, these individual slave states, to the federal. Okay, and that's all it was. But something had to happen. That shit can just go over overnight. And I'll forget who I was speaking to, or I might have been listening to something like there was a black market in slavery too. When slavery was supposedly outlawed in America, when was slavery outlawed in America? When was slavery outlawed in America? 1865. It says, but when did it become illegal? Let me see. When did it become illegal to import slaves? Right? Import slaves. So in America was 1808, and what, 60, almost 60 years later, then they called themselves freeing the slaves. So 1808, an act of Congress passed in 1800 made it illegal for Americans to engage in the slave trade between nations, and gave U.S. authorities the right to seize slave ships which were caught transporting slaves and confiscate their cargo. Then the act prohibiting the importation of slaves took effect in 1808. All right. So just because they stopped importing slaves did not mean that legally, did not mean they weren't doing it on a black market. You know, was there a black market during slavery? Okay, because there was one of the most famous remaining slave markets buildings in the United States is the old slave mart in Charleston, South Carolina. Throughout the first half of the 19th century, slaves bought in Charleston were sold at public auctions held on the north side of the exchange and Proverbs. So the black market, slaves value, slavery still structured social relations and cultural productions in the United States more than a century after it was formally abolished. So in that was up to 1965. 1865, 1965 is 1 century, right? And then you saw all of that. They were switching over and pushing people into integrating, right? So our people been catching nothing but hell here, man. You know, so you're not emancipated, you're not free, but Yahweh Shai is going to free us. It says, on the eve of the Civil War, the estimated value of the U.S. enslaved population exceeded $3 billion, triple $3 billion, triple that of investments nationwide in factories, railroads, and banks combined, and worth more even than the South's lucrative farmland. Not only any object to be traded and used, not only an object to be traded and used, the slaves, Israelites, was also a kind of currency. So, hey, we're currency. We were currency. And Apostle Gabar talks about that a lot. What currency is, man. Hey, we were currency, man. We were them gifts given to, matter of fact, since that's the spirit, yo. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that. We were currency. We were money. You know what I'm saying? This is Revelation 11. Revelation 11. And a lot of our people, they don't want to watch these kind of stuff or look at this information. You think by ignoring it, it's just going to go away, and it doesn't. Salakia, just bear with me. Yep, this is Revelation 11 and 10. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them. Who is the they? These heathen nations, starting off with Edom, and make merry and shall send gifts one to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth, man. You know, when we had these people in subjection, they were upset. So when you look at that word, why is it in reverse? Let's go to this. Salakia. Um, what's the word there is for gifts? So that word for gifts is duran in the Greek duran, a present, and this is a gift or presence, offer an expression of honor, sacrifice. The gifts offered to God. Listen to this: of money cast into the treasury for the purpose of the temple and for the support of the poor. The offering of gifts or gifts, sacrifice, offering. We are all of those things here, man. So going back to this, it says, not only an object to be traded and used, the slave Israelite was also a kind of currency, a form of value that anchored the market itself. And we're to this very day, we're still anchoring in the markets. Not only us, but other people who call themselves Americans and who are citizens of this country. You're being sold too. How you think America gets all these loans from the super elite bankers, man? They use us as capital. And we've always been capital here. It says slavery still structured social Slovakia. It says anchored the market itself. And this value was not destroyed in the war. Still, slavery still structured social relations and cultural production in the United States more than a century after it was formally abolished. As Aaron Carrico reveals in Black Markets, slavery engine of the capital accumulation was preserved and transformed in the slave commodity survived emancipation through both archival and research and lucid readings of literature, art, and law. From the plight of the 14th Amendment to the myth of the cowboy, Carrico breaks open the icon of liberalism to expose the shaping influence of slavery's political economy in America after 1865. Ultimately, the black market shows how radically incomplete and fundamentally failed abolition enabled the emergence of modern nation states in which slavery still determined and now goes on to determine economical and political and cultural life, man. That's right. And this is a article from the Hazard Circle. All right, this is from 2014, and it goes in about slavery. This is a year before, the individual we know as Peter the slave, whose back was beat, which his real name was Gordon. This was a year before that happened. So it says slavery. This is from the Hazard Circular, 1862. Slavery is likely to be abolished by the war power and chattel slavery destroyed. This I and my European friends are in favor of, for slavery is but the owning of labor and carries with it the care of the laborer, while the European plan led by England is capital control of labor by controlling wages. This can be done by controlling the money, and this is what they do. So how do they control the labor? Through the money, and they don't have to worry about the slave anymore and who cares for the slave and how the slave is to be cared for, because now the slave got to go to work and earn wages. And long as they keep a stronghold on the money, they're good. This is the reason why that chip is going to be pushed to the world. You know what I'm saying? It says the history of the great American fortunes. I stumbled upon a little factoid caught in the massive spider web of knowledge that is that 3-volume tome. Pulling upon the thread, I was lucky enough to find in the end of it a book that I'm reasonably certain has long been forgotten, and so I'm currently reading in an audiobook format. And you're listening for your listening pleasure. However, it is always blah 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 blah. I'm not going to go through all of this, but it says right here. Let me read this. It says slavery is likely to be abolished by the war power and chattel slavery destroyed, in which it was to a point, because you still have the 13th Amendment, which puts you in chattel slavery if you get convicted of a crime here in America. This I and my European friends are in favor of, for slavery is but the owning of labor. So when they got rid of slavery, it wasn't because it was such a bad institution for the so-called black people in America or the so-called Native Americans in America. It wasn't about that. It was all about the money. It was all about the power. They didn't care. They didn't care for Jake. They weren't opening them doors of slavery so that we could be equal to these people, so that they could look at us as the same people and we can eat with them and sit with them. Nah, it had a bigger volume, as the scripture says. It had a bigger agenda, right? So this is real quick. I just want to go to the scripture real quick. This is Sirach chapter 14. I think it's verse 5. Sirach 14 and 5. It says, yep, Sirach 14. Nope. Sirach here. Sirach, let me go back. Sirach 14 and yep. I'll start at 6. Sirach 14 and 6. There is none worse than he that envieth himself, and this is a recompense of his wickedness. Verse 7 is the point. If he doth good, he doth it unwillingly, and at last he will declare his wickedness. So a lot of our people thought that emancipation was a good thing. Yeah, we was in slavery, which they call it the big break back then. Our people call it the big break because they just let us loose like animals, and they didn't give us anything. We didn't have nowhere to go. We were just let out like cattle, you know. And even through all of that, Jake was still able to, create communities and create a life for themselves here in this shithole called America. All right. So again, if this man do it for any good, he do it for unwillingly, man. So our people get all excited about emancipation, but that shit was an unwilling thing. They didn't want to do that. That wasn't part of their plan. This is their plan. It says slavery is likely to be abolished by the war power and chattel slavery destroyed. This I and my European friends are in favor of. For slavery is but the owning of labor and carries with it the care of the labor, while the European plan, led by England, which is America's mother, is capital control of labor by controlling wages. This can be done by controlling the money. The great debt that capitalists will see to it is made out of war must be used as a measure to control the volume of money. And this is the reason why the super elite wanted that civil war in America, so they can get control of that money, because Lincoln, I think he had a greenback or something. They're going to talk about it in his thing right here. But they wanted to get a central bank in here early on. And that's what Esau does. When he wants to establish a central bank, he's going to bring war. He did it to Europe. He did it to America. They're doing it now. They want to change the money over to have more control over the money. All right. It's the same thing. Like Houston Mellon said, these people are not smart, man. They just got a formula that works for them. And that's all they do. And they keep doing it over and over again. All right. But it's not going to work this time. As the scripture says, what do you imagine against the Most High? What is it? Nahum 1 and 9. Nahum 1 and 9. Yep. What do ye imagine against the Lord? He will make an utter end. Affliction shall not rise up a second time. So that affliction that you put us through, that's not going to rise up a second time. No matter how many movies you make and you put in Jake's minds, because that's all these movies are set up to make fun at us about our condition and our oppression, and to keep it in the minds of our people. But yet they want to tell us at the same time, forget about slavery. Just get over it. It was a long time ago. Some people would say, oh, it's 400 years ago. And it wasn't. It was way less than 400 years, less than 200 years ago. And it don't matter how long it was ago. You Edomites still going to pay for it, man. That the term for affliction in the Hebrew is sarah. Sarah, and it says straits, distress, trouble, affliction, adversity, anguish, tribulation. And that's what this was. You look at this man's back. This is the real man that Will Smith was playing. His name is Gordon, but they called him Peter. And this is what the white man did to his back, man. Well, the Lord allowed it to happen, but still, hey, Esau gonna pay for this shit, man. He got this man back looking like a 3D map of a mountainous terrain, man. And all that came from whips, man. You know, and I'm sure he got infected too. Edomites gonna pay for this shit, man. You know, I got a Elder Mwatazak put me onto this video right here. This Jake woman, she's married to an Edomite, and he's watching a slave movie, and he's crying and shit, man. Salaki about that, brothers. Can y'all hear me now? Can brothers hear me now? Somebody let me know they can hear. How about now? Can brothers hear me now? The hell is going on?
How about now? Can brothers hear me now?
I can hear myself.
The hell is going on? How about now? Can brothers hear me now? I can hear myself.
Hey, so somebody on the comment board, can you let me know if you can hear? Con. Salaki about that, brothers. Yeah. So again, you know how they do. You know how they do. You know how they do when the truth come out. Anyway, this is it says slavery is likely to be abolished by the war power and chattel slavery destroyed. This I and my European friends are in favor of. For slavery is but the owning of labor and carries with it the care of the labor, while the European plan led by England, and that European plan was to industrialize America and put everybody into slavery, is capital control of labor by controlling wages. This can be done by controlling the money. The great debt that capitalists will see to it is made out of the war must be used as a measure of control, as a measure to control the volume of money. To accomplish this, the bonds must be used as a banking basis. We are now waiting to get the Secretary of the Treasury to make this recommendation to Congress. It will not do to allow the greenback, as it is called, to circulate as money any length of time, for we cannot control them, but we can control the bonds, and through them the bank issue. Chase Hazard, man. Yep, yeah. So it says at the time of the circular, at the time of the circular alleged distribution by Mr. Hazard in 1862, the United States had been fractured and was deeply embroiled in a sanguinary combat of the American Civil War. It would indeed be by force of this war power that the institution of chattel slavery would be undone in the United States, a fact that was, whether by coincidence or prescience, early predicted that the Hazard Circular, for it would not be until 1863 that President Lincoln delivered the Emancipation Proclamation, making an abolition of chattel slavery a goal of the war effort. The greenback currency mentioned in the circular was the fiat stuff which sustained the Union government during the period of war. The expenditures of the conflict far exceeded the revenues of the Union, and rather than turn to usurious loans from foreign powers, the government would print about 450 million of the paper money backed by nothing. Just like your money today is backed by nothing, you know, but free of debt. See, the money that we have today is backed by nothing, but you're indebted to the super elite bankers. This is what they wanted. It says the short experiment with the government issue notes was to be just that. Again, the Hazard Circular predicted that after the war, agitation began immediately to return the gold to the gold standard and abandon the greenback, and its circulation was contracted over several years. This was punctuated by the Panic of 1873 and resulting in the Great Depression, a period of economic distress only overshadowed by the events of the 1930s, which would help to bring monetary policy to the forefront of the public mind. These were a few of the events of the year surrounding the succeeding distribution of the Hazard Circular in 1862, although it would not become known to the general public for another 20 years. So here it is. They already put their plan out there like they always do. They put their plans out there to let people know what they're doing, but they don't care if you read it, if you don't read it, you know. But they gotta put their agendas out there so that in their minds and their deal with Satan, it could be successful, you know. And so at the end of the day, like the scripture says, if he do it any good, he do it unwillingly. He do it unwillingly. Okay. If he do any good, he do it, and in the end, his wickedness is going to be shown, man. And that's what's happening. And this dude Will Smith probably did the slavery movie so he can get back in graces with Hollywood, you know, which he's always been in the graces of Hollywood, you know. This is a movie that this guy said he would never do, but he ended up doing it, man. You know, he ended up doing it. So this is Psalms. I wanted to go to this real quick. Selective outrage at Will Smith's ignores the value of emancipation because they still tripping on the fact that he slapped Chris Rock. You know what I'm saying? It says, well, actually, I don't really need to go into this. This is not important. It's not important. I just want to focus on the you know, focus on at hand. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 73, verse 8. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak lawfully, right? Because when it comes to our oppression in this country, these Edomites, they speak proudly and lawfully against us concerning our oppression, but yet they want us to open our hearts and feel the same thing for these heathens, these other nations, when they don't feel that for us. See, the so-called Jew never went through none of this stuff. He or she never had to be emancipated from anybody. According to them, they always knew that they were Jews, and they always knew, they always had that freedom to, do whatever they do as a people. They had these small communities where they didn't let anybody in. They just kept doing what they did, right? But no, this is our people, man. We're the Israelites, man. And these nations, they speak lawfully concerning our oppression. Let me read this. Actually, I do want to go through this a little bit. This says right here, it says, now that Will Smith's newest film, Emancipation, is set to hit the big screen on December 9th, people want to boycott it because of the infamous Oscar slap back in April. Never in my life have I seen people so upset over a black man slapping another black man, especially when the entertainment industry bread and butter comes from us being enchanted because these movies put a spell on you by films and music with the same or worse levels of violence, right? Y'all got this man on talk shows and online magazines still giving an explanation for what happened when clearly all parties involved are trying to move past it. And people have done worse things with way less accountability. Let me take this moment to remind everyone that Brett Favre is still guilty of stealing millions from welfare recipients in Mississippi. And not one person sitting in the ivory towers of professional sports has called for the revocation of his Hall of Fame status because they're nothing more than racist and they're hypocrites. I'm not condoning violence or saying Will wasn't wrong, but what I'm not rocking with ever is fake or less selective outrage, especially outrage that has the potential to bury an important film about Black history at the time when anti-history and anti-Blackness are at an all-time high. Emancipation is the story of Whit Peter. Every once in a while, probably around Black History Month, we see a picture of an enslaved man sitting on what may be a stool with his back turned toward the camera. His back, neck, and head are filled with scars, keloids, welts from being whipped. Looking at the picture is painful and infuriating. And you should. When you see this shit, it should make you want to fuck Esau all the way up, man. Because that, like you said, that whip didn't just whip his back, it whipped his neck, it whipped the back of his head. They fucked Jake up, man. Even though it was a judgment of the Lord, Edomites gonna pay for this shit, man. And that's them speaking lawfully against our oppression, man. It says, I was today years old when I found out that man's name was Gordon, and that that photograph is called Whip Peter. This wasn't discussed when I was in school, but conveniently, we now have movies like Emancipation to learn more. Emancipation is inspired by debate and based on Gordon's radical resistance to enslavement. It tells the story of Peter, and his escape from the plantation in Louisiana. He's able to evade. I'm not going to go there because brothers want to watch the movie. We need to know the history, the real history. Well, the real history is that we're the Israelites. You don't need to focus on Whip Peter. We're the Israelites. That's what the real history is. But in order to find that out, you got to go into the scriptures, man. Which brothers need to watch this movie, man. And you ain't got to have Apple TV to watch it. You can watch it free online. If brothers want the link, let me know. I'll post it in the comment section, man. You ain't gotta pay for this shit. You can watch it. This is 2 Corinthians 11:14, and marvel not, and no marvel, Satan himself actually, because they call this dude Abraham Lincoln fast facts. named Abraham Lincoln, nicknamed Honest Abe, the great emancipator, right? They call this dude the great emancipator and Honest Abe. But this dude was nothing more than a devil. You know what I'm saying? He was a devil, and he was a HMO, a HMO as well. So again, 2 Corinthians 11 and 14, and no marvel that Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light, man. And that's what they did. They made this devil an angel of light. They call this dude the great emancipator, Honest Abe, and Honest Abe Honeycutt. You know what I'm saying? So you can watch the movie. Yeah. So what else we have? Ecclesiastes 7 and 7. Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart, right? Because when you find out that we're still in captivity, we're still in slavery, that emancipation was nothing but a transfer of ownership. Hey, that shit should make you mad. A gift will destroy the heart, which you see it happens with sellouts like Will Smith and others of our people who've taken a gift from this devil, and they're living good in this world, so-called, but it destroyed their heart from realizing what really happened to our people. And I think he even said that this movie was one of the hardest films he ever had to make, man. You know, because it's bring back up memories, man. You know, it bring back up memories, man. This is what was I looking at? I was reading through this. Yeah, it says Emancipation, Lincoln and race. The great emancipator didn't advocate racial equality, but was he racist? And he was. For his time period, he was. Because he was pushing that Edomite supremacy, man. You know, that's what that was all about. This is Habakkuk 2 and 16. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. So that's right. And that's why they don't like movies like this, because this is shameful spewing. This is evidence, man. Where's the evidence for the J Brews, man? Where's that evidence at? But this is the evidence for the real Israelites. This is shameful spewing, man. Okay. And these devils, they mock this stuff. You ain't never, but that's okay. You can mock all you want, because your time is coming. You Edomites, you're about to experience a slavery, you and the rest of these heathen nations, that has never been on the earth before. You know, I always use the term, we're going to get medieval on your ass. We're going to do way more than that. It's going to be worse than that for you Edomites. Lamentations 4:21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom. Who is Edom? The so-called white man. Starting off with Amalek. That dwelleth in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. What is that cup? That cup of slavery. This. But it ain't gonna be no civil war between Israelites and the kingdom of heaven, and we're gonna pick heathens to fight on each side. Nah, that's not gonna happen. Y'all all going in the hardcore captivity. At the hardcore captivity, you Edomites gonna be burnt up. You're gonna be eviscerated. You're gonna be taken off the earth. Every last one of you Edomites. And then you heathen nations, you're gonna be whipped into shape, and you're gonna be our eternal servants for eternity. Except we're just gonna pay you before the sun goes down. Too easy, because you were created to be our servants and slaves anyway. You know, but the big payback is coming. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwelleth in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. Right, because your sins are going to be exposed. That shameful spewing. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. So this is the last bit of our punishment, and it's been accomplished. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. So we're no longer going to go into captivity again. We ain't going to have to experience something like this again, ever again. You know, because this is for our disobedience against Yahweh Shem Shai. He said he polluted his own inheritance, man, by giving us into these devil's hands, and he showed us no mercy. He says, he will no more carry thee away in captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins, man. So you heathen nations, you're going to get it, man. Okay? And you're not going to be free. Even when you got your own land, you have to be in order under the laws and the commandments of Yahweh Shem Shai. Okay? You ain't going to be able to travel to other people's land and take it over. You ain't gonna be able to mix and mingle with other nations anymore. Hell to the Nizar. The only ones that's gonna have that authority is gonna be the Israelite man. We're gonna deal with the women of the other nations, but you other nations, you ain't gonna be doing that. Ain't gonna be no more melting pots either. So I ain't gonna hold you brothers up. I think I just made the point. Slack here. I think the point was made. 46 minutes. I want to give all praise and honor and glory to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Kakadash. Say double honor to the apostles and the bishop, elders of Great Millstone for teaching the word in truth and sincerity and for ruling well. And salutations to my fellow Akim. Keep pushing, keep striving. And we almost out of here. Hey, Shalom.